Good morning, everybody. You're very welcome to our webinar this morning. It's the fourth in a series of literacy awareness webinars, plain English. So this morning's webinar is an introduction to plain English, top 6 tips for clear communication. And our facilitator this morning is Sean Driver from NALA. He's a trainer and editor with NALA on plain English. So over to you, Sean, and all the best.
Thanks so much, Fergus. Thanks to Dur for the great introduction, and to Fergus. I'm delighted to be here, folks. Let's just get everyone using the chat box straight away, folks. So can everyone just find where the chat box is and put a hi in the chat box, just so I know that it's working for you? Just everyone do that for me. Lovely. And now I'm going to share my screen, and just give me a thumbs up so I know you can see my screen, folks. And then I'll go to sharing it. All good? Great. So, thanks for the introduction, folks. I work in NALA, plain English editor and trainer. I've done training there for about 10 years. And basically my job is to help organizations use the plain English guidelines in their communications. And folks, one of the best things about sessions like this is just seeing how many people are here from different organizations. So just in the chat box, folks, just, tell us your name, your job, your organization, and then one thing you'd like to learn about plain English, So I'll be reviewing this afterwards, seeing how it went, seeing what people actually want to learn. So just like I'm Sean from NALA, I'm a ex in my organization, and I'd like to learn about that. So just take 30 seconds, folks. Just, introduce yourselves to your colleagues in the sector, who you are, from where, what do you do, and what would you like to learn about? Just put that in the chat box if you feel comfortable, just for 30 seconds, and that'll help me when I'm going through the session to see what people who are here, what they'd like to learn.
Well, Catherine.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Vicky. That's such a great one there. How to integrate plain English across our comms outputs. Yeah, best practice in plain English. How to explain difficult words and concepts to members of the public. Yeah, so that gives me a lot of help there, folks. Good stuff. So keep doing that, and I'll just keep talking. So today we're going to talk about like the top 6 tips, make it really, really practical, give you time to reflect, and give you time to discuss. So I really like to just get people's voices heard, Please do keep yourselves muted, folks, if that's okay, just to keep things nice and easy for everyone. So what I want to try to achieve, folks, is have us thinking about our readers. So as you can see from different organizations, Age Friendly, Focus Ireland, we all have different readers. How can we, try to reach people? I want you to be able to advocate for plain English in your organization, so you can say what it is, what it looks like, and encourage other people to do it. And then I want you to be able to help your colleagues and help yourselves to see what makes text difficult to read and being able to change it. And then I want you to boost your confidence so you can use the techniques that we're talking about. Okay, so it comes down to this checklist, folks. So we're going to go through this checklist in a little bit of detail, and then we're going to pick out 6 tips from it. So if there's one resource I want you to walk away from today thinking is useful, it's the NALA checklist for documents. So it says documents, but it can cover web text, social media, anything you're writing for the public or for your colleagues. So there's points about language, punctuation and grammar, 12 points there. There's points about structure, and there's points about design. And just for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to go through the top 6 tips, just kind of boil down top 6 tips for today, okay? So the top tip number 1 is, folks, how can we imagine who we're writing to and speak directly to them? So the more you understand who you're writing to, the better. We're going to talk about using the active voice. We're going to do some exercises on this, basically saying, we can help you, or you can do this, give people power, and be transparent. We're going to talk about using inverted pyramid writing. What that means is that just thinking like journalists and putting the key message first. We're going to talk about using white space headings and bullets to make things easier to scan. We're going to talk about using everyday words, so not overwhelming people with jargon and explaining technical words. And we're going to talk about keeping sentences short. So they're my top 6 tips, folks. I'm going to try to illustrate them through examples. And that's the next thing, folks. It's just getting you thinking like journalists, getting you thinking about what the key point is. And we're going to do some warm-up exercises to illustrate this. Okay? Perfect. Good work, folks. Thanks for putting all those things in the chat box. That was really, really helpful. Great to see so many inputs. So let's do a warm-up task, folks. And what I want you to imagine is this is just to get you thinking about how plain language can be so helpful for so many, it can be helpful, okay, in different walks of life. So this is from an insurance agency, folks. So I want you to imagine that you've been in a very minor car accident, but there's been some damage to your car and it's not your fault. Okay, so even in a car accident, no one's been hurt, some damage to your car, not your fault. You write a letter to the other person's insurance agency looking for compensation, and you receive this letter back. Okay, so this is a real example from a real insurance agency. I want you to read this, folks, for a minute or two, and then in the chat box, tell me what the message here, what's the key message for that busy reader? Okay, so have a read of this for a minute or two, and then in the chat box, tell me what the key message is and where is it? Thanks, Christina. So, Christina, if you feel comfortable just unmuting and talking to us, where does it say that you're not getting any money from us? Just talk us through your experience of reading it.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Christina.
Okay, grand, fine. Because I'm with crappy earphones and I'm actually on annual leave and I'm in St. Peter's Basilica.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. So it's basically saying we don't like the stuff that you've said, so we don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a different view. Our driver says this happened, and so we're not giving any money from the claim, from the insurance that you're claiming against. And if you disagree with us, well, then feel free to contact us again, but basically flip off, you're not getting any money.
Excellent, excellent, Christina. I've never had someone dial in from St. Peter's Basilica before, so this is fantastic. And yeah, so that kind of sentence there that you've picked out. So and other people have picked out. So we have considering the above the information, we have the date, we stand over initial review, and then there's a typo here. Each bear their own settlement, whereby both parties bear their own costs for the claim. So it's a no letter, folks. It's a no letter. But if you were to give that a subheading, that was kind of professional and informative. Can I type in a subheading just to make it easy to scan? What could you give that little sentence there, subheading? Any thoughts in the chat box so you can shout them out? Maybe put them in the chat box just for ease. It's okay. Conclusion, final decision. It's good, Vicky. Yeah, perfect. Then the next sentence here, folks. Should you disagree with our findings, we recommend that you contact your own comprehensive insurers for advice on how to proceed. Give me a subheading for that. That sentence there, should you disagree with our findings, we recommend that you contact your own comprehensive insurers. Appeal, yeah. Follow up. Next steps, they're good suggestions, folks. And then for those big two chunky paragraphs with please note the speed in which someone was traveling down to we note in the absence of independent evidence, the case falls to one word against the other. Give me a subheading for that. Reasons for decision. That's excellent, Bernie. Yeah. If you think this is incorrect, our findings, yeah, perfect. So let's apply that, folks. Let's apply those techniques. So let's put the key parts to the top, which is our decision. Let's do our rationale, and let's do what you can do if you disagree. So your subheadings are great. We could do them as well. But what does putting the key message first and then using subheadings, what does that do for your reading experience? Does anyone want to maybe raise their hand or just start speaking? What does that do for your reading experience? Vicky Masterson?
Hey, sorry, I don't know if I did raise hand or clapping hands, I'm not sure. So basically for your reading experience, you're able to it breaks it down in your brain and you can scan it a lot more clearly. You can get to the main point, which is what people want to know, the decision. And then obviously you can go through and digest the rest of it. So the white spacing and the subheadings, it just breaks up that entire block of text into digestible chunks.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Vicky. So folks, sometimes when we think about plain English, it's not just, the language or the words we choose to use. It's how we structure them. It's getting inside the shoes of our readers and, putting the key message first, okay? Far less daunting to read. So when we think about literacy, folks, so we're lucky to have a lot of maybe literacy tutors here or trainers. So they'd know a lot better than I would. But when you're presented with a big block of text like this, you have to do a lot of skimming and scanning before you get to the key information. And for people with unmet literacy needs, the people NALA are trying to reach and trying to advocate for, skimming and scanning could be challenging. So, that's why if you don't lead with the key information, you can potentially lose people. you know. And sometimes people say like, oh, but John, this is an insurance agency. They want to be difficult, you know, they don't want to be paying out money. And I thought about that and I thought, well, every time an insurance agency communicates with a person, if the person has a bad experience, they could potentially lose a future customer, if you get what I mean. So it's in their interest to like have clear information for everyone, you know, because that could be a future customer they're making life difficult for. Anyway, okay, so that's about structure, folks. Let's do an example, just a warm-up exercise about language. Okay, let's do a warm exercise about language. And it's from our good friends in the Pensions Authority, who are doing really great work to implement a plain language culture. So I've been doing lots of work with them over the years. So this is from one of their letters to trustees. Okay, so let me just give you a bit of context, folks. If you are a trustee, you're basically making sure pensions are well run, and the Pensions Authority's job is to make sure trustees are doing their job. So this is a sample letter they'd send to trustees. It talks about like the legislation, that leads to that, talks about the purpose of the letter, and then the main part here, it talks about the engagement program. So I want you to imagine that you are a trustee, you're running a pension, you receive this, and here they're giving you, well, what are they giving you? They're giving you information about an engagement program. And what we want to do, folks, is move away from abstract language to more direct and personal and use verbs, okay? So if I give you the first part, so as part of the engagement program, we ask you to do 3 things, okay? So can anyone just in the chat box turn this into an action? Instead of saying completion of a questionnaire, make it a verb. As part of this engagement program, we ask you to do what? Complete the questionnaire. Great, exactly. Second one, there's a meeting between the trustees and the authority based on the completed questionnaire. So just for a parallel structure, give me a verb for meeting. So a meeting, that's professional. I'm the authority. I'm asking you to what with the meeting? Any suggestions in the chat? Attend a meeting. Yeah, good work. And then the last one. So again, folks, I'm the authority. I'm inspecting you. I'm engaging with you. And after the questionnaire, after the meeting, I'm going to send you a findings letter. What do I want you to do with that findings letter that has observations and recommendations? What do I, the authority, want you to do with that letter? You could say read. I think if I'm an authority, I want to be a bit stronger. I think implements could work, Bernie. Yeah, implements could be a bit, a bit stronger. I'm the authority here. And it's still, I think plain language, still direct. So if we look at that, folks, and the whole point here is moving away from abstract language to more personal and direct language. If you have a read of this, as part of the engagement program, we ask you to carry out 3 actions: complete the attached questionnaire, attend an online MS Teams meeting, and then act on or implement our findings letter, which include observations and recommendations. Again, can anyone put their hand up or do a clapping icon and tell me what does that using verbs do to the language? Maybe John Brownie, you have a point there. Can you just maybe speak that aloud? If you feel comfortable. That's okay, not to worry.
I can
yeah,
go
Vicky,
again if you want.
go ahead, Vicky.
It breaks it. It's 3 clear action points. So you've got action 1, this, action 2, this, action 3, this.
Yeah. And folks, hopefully you're in the, we all want people to do things, right? We all want to advocate for change. And, part of that is just kind of making it clear what we're asking people to do. So as long as you do it with respect, as part of the engagement program, we ask you to do 3 things. Bang, bang, bang. Just makes it easier to get people to do things. Cool. So that's the language part, folks. I want to talk a little bit about the active and the passive voice. Okay. So these are just to warm you up, and then we'll do a bit of context, and then we'll do a little bit of looking at stuff that people have sent in. So this is from the Arts Council, folks. So the Arts Council doing excellent work promoting the arts. I sound like an ad for the Arts Council now, but promoting the arts, championing artists, excellent work. And this is something that's on their website, and it's kind of directed to people looking for funding. Okay, so traditional artists and residents at UCC. UCC is the University College Cork, I think. So here, folks, 30 grand, and then you have the information about the bursary. Okay, but just in terms of making it as easy as possible for people, folks, if we use a tool which I like called the Hemingway editor, which is like a free online readability checker. You kind of copy and paste your text into it. It'll analyze it for you and it'll show you where your passive voice is. And passive voice, folks, sounds very complicated, but it's not that complicated. Let's look at a section in particular, okay? So here is the part about, giving people instructions. Okay, so applications should be sent to this person by 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, 9th November. Applications will be accepted by email only. Applications received after the closing dates will not be accepted. Okay, so this is from their website. Don't overthink this, folks, but can anyone point out to me where the passive voice is being used? Can anyone give me the passive constructions there? You can put them in the chat box or shout them out.
It's kind of it's telling you what it's telling you what to do, but not guiding you in what to do.
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. So we got the Vickies are really showing up today. That's fantastic. So Vicky Casserly, do you mind just do that on the fly there? And just it's an instruction. So if starting with a please or you should, what would you ask a person to do? If Vicky Casserly.
Oh, sorry. Applications. I would say you can apply by emailing your application to.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Perfect. That's the whole point, folks. So we're looking at the passive constructions that are there. So we have applications should be sent, applications will be accepted, applications received. So we're not saying who's doing it because it's the Arts Council or UCC who are doing these things, who are receiving them. So let's turn it around and just make it more active and give people power. So how to apply. So give a nice subheading, please email your application by this time, and then maybe you could use the passive at the end to kind of be a bit rules and regulation kind of sounding. Application received after closing dates will not be accepted. Or you could even change that, folks, to the active voice. So applications received after the closing date will not be accepted. Can anyone start that with a we and speak it aloud or put in the chat box? What could you change?
If we receive your application after the deadline, we will not be able to accept it.
That's it, Christina. Yeah, that's it, Christina. Bernie in the chat box, we will not accept late applications. We will not accept late applications. Yeah, that's it, folks. That's what we mean by the active and the passive voice. So it can be easy to slip into passive voice when you want to sound official, when you want to sound formal. But just remember, active voice is either giving people power, saying you can do this, or please do this, or it's saying, we can help you, or we will do this, or we won't do this. That's all we mean by active and passive. And we'll look at that in more examples later on. That's just to warm you up. Okay, we've done language, folks. We've done a bit of structure. Let's do a bit more structure, just to kind of keep you warmed up. Hope you're liking this relentless pace of exercises. So the inverted pyramid writing, folks, what this means is just how can we structure things so the key messages first. So we were doing some work with the Pensions Authority recently, okay? So Pensions Authority doing excellent work to, embed plain English into their work. So we might all be faced, folks, with legislation, or if you're working for the government, or whether you're, explaining things that the government do to your service users, okay? So again, I just want you to have a look at this text here, and I'm going to give you a minute to read it. And then I'm going to invite you to have a go at giving me a subheading that structures and that summarizes the key points of this second paragraph here, okay? So it's very legalese, but one technique we can use if we have to explain things is using subheadings, which are very descriptive, okay? So have a read of it, then give me a subheading to summarize that paragraph there, Section 35 of the Pensions Act. Give you a minute.
John, could you make it a tiny bit larger, please, that heading? Yeah.
I'll try. It might lose a little bit of it, but there we go. Thanks, Ferg. Good work. I might go to, is it Deirdre Talty or Talty Deirdre? I'd say it's Deirdre Talty. I like yours, Deirdre. Why did you go for that as a subheading, increase of transfer threshold?
Because that's the biggest message to come out of the paragraph, that it's going from 10 to 20. So that
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So and you've done it very
was
concisely there.
attention to the amount.
Yeah, yeah. Good work, folks. Good work. So that's the technique. So I went for one that was a bit longer. So increase in the threshold for transfers without member consents to 20,000. You might say it's too much detail because we kind of have it there. But that's the idea, folks, is can we try to, with legislation, if we have to like leave legislation, can we try to make it a bit appealing to our readers by using the technique of subheadings? I think it'd be quite effective. So that's what we mean by the inverted pyramid writing, folks. You're always thinking about how can I be front loading the key points for my readers? How can I be helping present difficult information in a digestible way? And you might be unable to change certain legal stuff, and subheadings can really help you do that because you're kind of interpreting it for your readers. Okay, let me check the time. Okay, we're on 25 past, not too bad. Let's talk about design, folks, as well. Okay, let's talk about design. So when we're looking at examples, folks, the idea is just to, build our language awareness, build our design awareness. I'm not going to turn you into designers, but I'm going to try to help you, try to give you the language that when you're working with designers, how can you make sure that the message is helped or supported by design rather than potentially lost. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So this was one from the Commission for Regulation of Utilities from, I think, last year, where they were trying to give people information about, well, things that could help them. Okay, so it might be a bit small, but I want you to have a look at that, folks. And in the chat box, just maybe mention one or two things that could be potentially challenging about this design. So you might see this at a bus shelter, you might see it online. What's potentially challenging about that design? Too many words and the alignment. So Danielle, if you're there, do you fancy talking to us about the alignment? What do you mean by that? What's the alignment?
So it's kind of aligned to the right, but at a diagonal, which makes it even more kind of difficult to read. I don't have dyslexia or problems, visual problems or anything like that. And even I find it kind of tricky to digest just because of the structure of it.
And stay with me, Danielle. So there's a design concept here. What is that light? What are they trying to suggest with the design concept? Okay, we'll jump in. It's like shedding light.
It's supposed to be like a light beam kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a really lovely idea, isn't it? It's a really lovely idea, shedding lights, spotlights, but it's kind of an example where it's kind of potentially interfering with the message, So it's just, design should always support it. So support the message. So here it might be like too much text. Is that light beam actually eye-catching, or is it potentially hurting the message? So that's all I just wanted to get you thinking about like that. Got to keep rolling along, folks. Keep rolling along. Here's another one that was kind of from Culture Nights that I came across. And again, fantastic event going on. And again, we're just trying to, be constructive, try to think about things that could potentially we could change. So what could we do there? What would you point out there that might not be working? So have it in the chat box. What's potentially not working in the design? So the color contrast, the italics, the subheadings are too small, all the text is the same size. Yeah, so there's no hierarchy, folks. With design, there has to be hierarchy, has to be some parts getting a privilege of size, and it's centered in the alignment as well. So that's why for plain English, folks, we aim for left align, making sure images support the text, making sure there's good color contrast. So they're just examples where it's not really working. Okay, good stuff. I want to show you an example of good design, folks. But I'm not going to show you the HSC one because I always show that. I'm a bit, it's really good, but let me show you another one that I kind of came across recently, which I think is also very, very good. So this one is from the Dublin Energy Agency. They're called Codema or Codema. And they're trying to get people in Ballymun to come to a community conference. So I want you to take this in, folks. It's a print leaflet. There's the front and there's the back. And I want to get you in the headspace of thinking, what's strong about this? Because I think lots of things are very strong. And then we'll talk about things we can potentially improve about it, if you know, with respect. So just take the whole thing in, folks, the front on the left and the back on the right, and what's strong about it. And I'll give us a few minutes to have a chat. Great. I'd love for someone to maybe just put their hand up, folks, and it can be very good when we're talking about design, just be really explicit about the features that are there. Can anyone just maybe unmute and talk about the things that they think are strong there in the design? Caroline, are you going to jump in?
Yeah, I just really like the fact that the main 3 points are on the left. It's on November 29th where it is, and that it's free. And the 2 yellow boxes I think are quite good because they say free to attend for everybody. And then the highlighted why you're coming along on the next page is good as well, to join the discussion and enjoy a delicious dinner.
Yeah. So the person from Credema told me this was kind of put together, in collaboration with people from the local area. So it's always good to hear when it's kind of co-designed. Yeah. Are there any things there, folks, that you think are potentially challenging or you're not sure about in terms of the design concepts? You can put them in the chat box or you can speak them aloud. So it's always good to think about what's wrong about something, how can we improve it?
So Sean, is that the back, like it's the front and back of a leaflet?
Exactly, Vicky, yeah.
So I'd find it a bit disorientated that the design is somewhat changed on the back page and it is the front in terms of the imagery, if that makes sense.
So it's going from a kind of illustration at the top to a photograph on the right, or the kind of the...
Yeah, it's going from an illustration. Like when I look at the one at the left, it's very clear, what's happening. When I look at the one at the right, it's kind of developing that a little bit more, but still with the same messages. But the aesthetics of the background differ.
Okay.
And
interesting, yeah.
I'd look at that as 2 different leaflets.
Interesting.
A plain English one and then just a leaflet kind of without as much thought put into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair, Vicky. I suppose with the front page on the left, they're trying to, make it as welcoming and front load the key information as possible. And then on the second part, on the other side, they're trying to give you a bit more detail, kind of make a bit of a story, isn't it? Dublin City Council are doing this. The plan is this. We need to hear from you. Yeah. The code at the back might be daunting. That's interesting. Anne, why would you say that, Anne? If you found, like, do you think QR codes are still a bit daunting for people, or?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Go ahead, Anne. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I do think that I thought, now I'm finding it awkward. I'm on my phone today, so I'm flicking over and back. So sorry, you probably see a delay. When I look at the front, obviously you can see that there's a family there and there's an image there and it's lovely and interesting. And I do think that, even people in general can be a little bit afraid of technology. And you see it in restaurants now where people have to order and they have to use the QR code. And I do think that's very intimidating. And then maybe when they see this, they'll think, oh, do I need to be a little bit, IT, do I need to know a little bit about that? Or do I need to know how to scan this? Is this something that's something I'll need to do when I'm there? Because, if somebody is going to something and they have a little bit of esteem
Yeah.
issues and things like that, they may think, oh, I'm going to need this, or maybe I won't go.
That's very
Y-
interesting, Anne.
That,
Yeah,
that kind of thing, you know, because I noticed that in the literacy service, people would say, oh, will I have to do this? Will I have to do that?
yeah, yeah.
And maybe that's essential, that I have to scan something and I don't know how to do that.
But it's an interesting thing, and it's very interesting. That's very interesting. So, like, some suggestions that people have made. But yeah, let me ask you the suggestions, folks. So, like, is there any way we could maybe make it a bit less daunting in terms of if you wanted people to book a ticket, what could we do to do that? Any suggestions? You can put in the chat box or shout it out.
I don't know if you could just say you can come along and purchase your ticket on the day,
Yeah,
or and a big or, and then underneath that part where you can scan the QR code, because just in case they think that's essential that you need to do that.
yeah, that's a good
You
point.
know.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think Bernie makes the point that the book your free ticket today on the left, and then the call, visit, scan, maybe they could be linked a bit stronger, like as you said as well. And then maybe like a name of a person, call our, you know, I don't know what they call themselves, customer engagement person, or even like an image of a person potentially could be more humanizing. But yeah, but I think that's, and break up the phone number. Good point, Catherine. So thank you for that. So like good thing to do, folks, is always count 4 from the right. So you might put a space there after the 0. Then you have 085 space 156 space, and then 007. And it just makes it a little bit easier to take in, a little bit of white space. Great. Could also just say perfect. Good. Well done, folks. That's really, really excellent analysis of something that's quite strong. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Will I do this one or will I move on? Yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this one. So folks, just to get you thinking about good design and kind of putting language and structure and design all together is this example. So you may have seen that when you went to your Facebook recently, you had to make a choice. And Facebook put this kind of information together that when everyone in Europe basically opened up their Facebook, they were presented with this. So what I want you to do is read the information and then think about language, structure and design, what's making it strong, and then we'll just have a chat about it. Take that in and then we'll have a chat. So let me just pick out some of the comments in the chat box, folks. Isabel Graham, if you fancy, talk to us about the language and the headings. You're mentioning active language. What do you mean by that? Just explain that to us. If you're there, Isabel. We can't hear you, Isabel. You're unmuted.
You can't?
Go ahead. Yeah, there you are.
Oh yeah, okay. So it clearly says that you have to make a choice about you using Facebook. If you subscribe, you have no ads, and if you don't, you use for free with ads.
Yeah. So using those verbs there, subscribe, use, even the first word you picked up there, it's you. So personal. What do you think about the way they're talking about law, Isabel? Do you think, just talk to me about that. How are they introducing that?
How are they introducing law?
Yeah, in the paragraph there. Do you think, because remember when we looked at the Pensions Authority one a few minutes ago, remember with the Pensions Authority, it was like regulation section 29(5) of this point, and then
It's very subtle, yeah, actually, but I didn't even pick up on it, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting contrast, isn't it, between
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Megan, do you want to come in on that point?
Yeah, I just think it's very clear, and they could have said kind of more about the law, but that probably wouldn't be very kind of necessary for the audience. So I think just how they worded it was kind of not overwhelming or intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. Laws are changing. There's the potential to unnerve, but they kind of get through it very quickly, don't they, Mary? They just kind of like brush past it, you know? They don't linger on that because they don't want you lingering on that, do they? Someone talked to me about the use of images if they fancy. We'll come back to that point, Patrick. I think it's a good point. But how are they using images? And even just unpack the images they're using. Someone do that for me. Patrick?
Yeah, I think that's, they're using icons, obviously, in computers, and people are using this on a platform which is obviously technology based. People are used to icons, so I suppose they're going with an icon representation of a credit card, is it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they mean by the star with streaking star. Is it like it's free? I don't know. But
I think that's it. I think that's it, Patrick. Yeah.
So they probably could be a little bit bigger, those icons, or as you're saying and promoting here today, structure. They could, actually structured a little bit different, But anyway,
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. And stay there for one sec, if you don't mind. Like, what do you think of the use of the green color there? Again, going back to design, what does green potentially suggest?
Green suggests, okay, go ahead, do this.
Yeah.
Very good. Which is what I would pick up, but obviously they want you to do the point above. But I think
so. Do you think they want? That's interesting. I showed this to other clients, and they suggested that Facebook make much more money than 10 quid a month selling your data. But I don't know that. They just said that, so.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's evident in the fact that they've a green text.
Yeah. And which is more eye-catching, the subscribe button or the use for free button? I mean, it'd be interesting to see a drop. Maybe not just ask Patrick, maybe ask everyone there, folks. What do you think they want you to do here? Maybe put in like a subscriber user. We'll see what people think is the right. Okay, I think we have a winner there. John, you're a contrarian, John. Why do you think they want you to subscribe based on just the design? Maybe mic's not working, John, but that's okay.
No, just probably because of the eye catching, the heading over the top of it maybe, and then the 99. They just probably the overall feature, the way it reads goes down, and the main heading is maybe why they want you to.
And it's first. It's first as well, isn't it? Like it's the
first as well. It's in order as well of the preference of what they want people to read.
Great, perfect, lovely. Thanks so much, folks. So hopefully you feel warmed up. Hopefully you feel more than warmed up. But there we go. We're finishing at 12, aren't we, folks? Someone give me a nod. We're finishing at 12. That's correct, isn't it? Okay. Thanks, Ferg. Thank you, Ferg. So let me give you the context, folks. So we've looked at lots of examples, looked at lots of different organizations, and just talking about like just making the point again. So you're attending this NALA workshop, maybe attending previous ones, but we're all about advocating for people with unmet literacy needs. Okay, so that's where we're coming from, and we're helping to implement this strategy called Adult Literacy for Life, and we're advocating on behalf of people with unmet literacy needs. And if you look at this quote from the minister, where he says, there's too many people in Ireland with low literacy skills. This is not a failure of the person, but a failure by the state. So we're working very hard to end that stigma so people feel encouraged. So just the statistics, folks. A lot of you might know these stats. If you do know these stats, potentially don't put an answer in the chat box. Just give people who are just coming to this kind of a bit fresh, maybe their first interaction with NALA. Let's go through these stats really quickly. So when we're thinking about literacy, folks, functional literacy is level 3. And what that means is that a person passes their junior cert. So when you pass your junior cert, you're considered to be functionally literate. You can get by in society. So what we're aiming to do is encourage people who may be at level 1 or level 2 or working towards level 3 and beyond to like improve their reading, writing, and digital skills. So just put a number in the chat box, folks. If you're not sure and you've never seen the stat before, wonder how many adults might be at level 1 literacy. So level 1 may struggle to read a simple message, write a simple message. And these stats are taken from a European-wide survey from 2012. But just in Ireland today, 1 in how many adults might be at or below level 1 literacy? Just put a number in the chat box for me if have a guess, if you're not familiar. Good. Thanks, folks. So the official stats is just 1 in 6 for literacy. For numeracy, it's 1 in 4. And then for technology, it's 2 in 5. Okay. So just it's important just to remember those stats that when we're designing our communications, remember the insurance one where we didn't have the key information first. 1 in 6 adults in Ireland, would have difficulty, very strong, big difficulty skimming and scanning for information. So just important to remember those things, those stats. And then people talk, I think it was Anne earlier talked about technology being a bit off-putting for people, so the stat is 2 in 5 adults at level 1 technology. So how can we make things as simple as possible? And also, how can we make sure there's alternative ways for people to do things? Great. So that's the situation, folks. We're helping to implement this strategy, Adult Literacy for Life, with partners in SOLAS and partners in Adult Literacy for Life Program Office. So it's great if you want the detail about what's being done to tackle the issue. It's in the Adult Literacy for Life strategy, which you can find on our website and on their own website. Good. Just giving you a bit of context about plain English for a minute, folks. So part of NALA's mission is to, advocate for people with unmet literacy needs, help them improve their skills, and also help organizations and governments in the private sector and the third sector, NGOs, improve their own communication. So when we advocate for plain language, folks, we try to get the government to take it seriously. So this is in the 2020 program for government, where they say that they will introduce a plain language requirement in all public service communication, so people can understand information the first time they really hear it. Using plain language saves time and money and reduces mistakes and complaints, and we'll consult with NALA. So that's the government's commitment. And I mentioned the Pensions Authority a few times, folks, and I really do like working with them. And they have a style guide, and they make this claim, folks, or they make this kind of a pledge, I should say. They say the authority is committed to complying with the public sector commitments to present all information for the public in plain language, and then crucially embedding plain language in the culture of the authority. So I think that's a really, really strong message. And it's one I'd kind of encourage every organization to have, to embed plain language in the culture of the authority. So attending today, that's a great step. Thank you so much for attending. And the resources I'm going to share with you afterwards, hopefully they'll help you. And we're going to have lots more plain language events like this to kind of encourage you to, develop that plain language culture in your organization. Some people in the survey, folks, asked for examples of like organizations who do plain English well. Thanks, Mary. We'll come back to that point in a minute. That's a good point. There's going to be a new, there's going to be more results in 2024 when it's done again. So Mary's just asking about the statistics from 2012, and there's going to be new statistics in 2024 as the report is done again. Let's just go back to this, folks, if that's okay. So an organization who worked really, really hard to put information in plain language is the Law Reform Commission. So they might publish a issues paper or a consultation paper about, say, a big legal change that's going to happen about compensating victims of crime. And they'll publish like a 400 page, legal document with legal precedents. And then they'll work very, very hard to publish a, plain language summary in like 30 to 40 pages, still quite long, but I think they're an exemplary organization working really, really hard to do it. So that's the Law Reform Commission, folks, and I'll send you links to their stuff so you can see it in action. Another organization working really, really hard is the DPP. That's a Director of Public Prosecutions. If you look at their guides, making a victim impact statement, how we make prosecution decisions, going to court as a witness, they're working very hard to put these into plain language, for people in very stressful moments in their lives. The court service, that's the CEO Angela Denning, who attended one of our sessions this year, and she's making the case for plain English, helping to lift unseen barriers to justice. So it's great to have the CEO at court service promoting plain language. And then we work with the DSP, folks. We work with the DSP. So it's all about trying to help what seems to be big faceless departments and organizations have more quality customer service, and plain language can help you do that. And then within education, folks, we worked recently with Tipperary ETB. And you might see this plain English mark sometimes on documents, which is our kind of NALA stamp of approval, means that it's been through our editing service and we kind of think it follows plain language guidelines. So here's a learner guide to assessments and a learner information guide. So again, I'll send you links to these folks, but it's just examples of, you know, resources that are out there that we think follow the plain language guidelines. Yeah. Okay. So folks, hopefully I've given you a bit of context. I finally get into the definition of plain English. I like to, you know, get you there slowly, but eventually. So for me, folks, and for NALA, our definition of plain language, which I want you to take away, is that it's a way to write and present information so your reader can understand and act on it after a single reading. So think about all the examples that we showed earlier, folks. You want people to be able to understand the information, then be able to use it to make important life decisions. It means writing accurately and clearly for the intended reader. So folks, if you're aiming for a general audience, you want to aim for kind of level 3, kind of functional literacy. Okay, so that's kind of 14, 15-year-old curious teenager kind of reading level. That's how most of us feel comfortable reading. You want to avoid jargon, except for people who understand it. So jargon can be helpful. It can shorten difficult concepts, but you don't want to overuse it when you're writing to the public. And then you want to use clear layout design. So hopefully the examples have shown you that it's more than just language. Good. I'll skip the myths for today, folks, because I want to get on to more things. I want to talk about some reference guides, folks. So after the session, I'm going to send you a resource pack, but some of the guides that you might like to look at are NALA's Writing Design Tips booklet. Please do check that out. That gives you a full overview of our plain English guidelines. A great guide is from the NDA. That's the National Disability Authority. They have a toolkit about that covers written, spoken, and sign and digital communications. Has anyone on the call actually ever looked at that, folks, the NDA's guides? I'd be delighted if someone talk about it rather than me. That's okay. So I'm going to send you that as a link, folks, and it's really comprehensive and has lots of interesting information in it. And then if you want a refresher on grammar and, you know, things like passive voice and active voice, place to go is the Plain English Style Guide for Public Service. Just kind of gives you the points I'm giving to you now, folks, just in a guide. Okay, so that's the kind of 3 that we'd suggest you save and refer to. And yeah, and then lots of organizations such as the Pensions Authority have their internal style guides. So I think it's important, folks, that, you know, where possible, you have an internal style guide to give people, you know, knowledge in their area. So do think about putting them together, and you can get in touch with us and we can help you do it. And yeah, that's the Plain English Style Guide for Public Service, folks, which I mentioned earlier. Just kind of gives you very in-depth things about, like, when should I use capital letters? When should I not use capital letters? So you might find that helpful. If you're writing for the web, folks, one of the #1 places to go is the gov.uk style guide. So again, why am I recommending this? Well, gov.ie, which is, you know, the government of Ireland, we do have a style guide, and I'd recommend that as well. But the gov.uk one is kind of considered one to be one of the best in the world. And basically, it might seem strange now, but gov.uk have a reputation for writing in plain language. So I'd encourage you to check that out, folks. It's their style guide. They talk about how they do what they do when they're writing for the public. Yeah, okay, I'm just a bit concerned about time, so let me just go to where I want to get to you to, which is here. Okay, I want to talk about, for the last 10 minutes, folks, just some examples that came in from participants. So when we're looking at examples from participants, we're doing it with respect, and any suggestions or any points are always very respectful and, you know, from everyone. Does anyone from the Health Insurance Authority, folks, just want to talk us through how they put these kind of 2 documents together? Because I think they're really, really strong. And I'd like us just to kind of reflect on how strong they are for a minute. And I'm going to put them into the chat box. Hopefully someone is here from the...
Christina's put her hand up there.
Me, sorry, hi. Yeah, we developed these recently. We had 4 brochures and they were quite repetitive, and they kind of had a lot of extra information that I tried to cut away from, just to kind of boil it down for people, because health insurance is kind of a frightening product for people anyway, and that there's a lot of inertia in terms of people, in terms of switching products. They can just stick with the same one because they don't really understand the concepts. So that was kind of the thinking behind it. And then we wrote it with, you know, I suppose, considering people that we may have spoken to at trade fairs and stuff like that. and sort of saying like, what's the easiest way of explaining this? How would I explain this to, you know, somebody who finds this very, very challenging? And that's kind of what we used as our guide as we were trying to write it. So putting it into you, moving away from the kind of third person, you know, and just trying to keep a lot of in the older brochures, there was a lot of information repeated that wasn't necessary when in the kind of FAQ sections. So we just tried to pare that all away and just literally answer the specific question that was asked. So that's where we were with that.
Excellent. So Christina, I read these last night, and let's talk about this, because I'm 34, okay? I'll be 35, folks, in December. So I found this very, very interesting, this part here. So just take a look at that section there, folks, and look at the techniques that are being used to make this easy to read, okay? So lifetime community rating, what's that? My mom said it to me, but what actually is it? Okay, I'm gonna have a read of this and see what I can learn. So just have a read through this, folks. And what techniques is it using to be clear? Yeah, so just to read through the comments that are in the chat box, folks. Simple language that avoids jargon, lays out clearly the two impacts of the age bracket, uses bullet points, gives a real example. You know, the design is helpful. Yeah. So folks, I'd really I don't know, just commend the Health Insurance Authority for putting those two guides together. I'd encourage you to read them both as, you know, members of the public, but also as, like, you know, people who want to reach, you know, other members of the public. So I think they're both very well done. And Christina, I'd say a lot of work went into these. I'd say it took a good bit of time. Christina?
Yeah, my only concern with it was, and you know, and I myself have issues around figures. So the only thing that I kind of wasn't a big fan of, we have a lot of actuaries and accountants and numbers people in the organization. Now I'd probably be the least numbers person, or the comms team would be the least numbers people. And I suppose they wanted us to be accurate in terms of how much you would be paying, so that people don't go, but it said that I would pay X, but I'm actually paying Y. So I, you know, if anyone had any tips, hints, guidance, even yourself, in relation to the blue box at the bottom, the navy box at the bottom around numeracy.
Yeah.
Piece. That's the only piece that I'm kind of, you know, not that I'm patting myself on the back or anything, but you know what I mean? We really did look at the language very, very much, whereas, you know, the numbers thing is still a little bit challenging for people.
So when you have a table like this, and you've kind of kept it quite simple, there's just kind of two things there, even though there's a little bit of maths there, you're kind of explaining the maths. Maybe adult educators would know better than I do, so please do feel to speak up. Any adult educators who work in numeracy, please do. But you're kind of giving a bit of a narrative here with the table, and you're kind of explaining it. So I think that's strong, you know, and you're kind of keeping the table simple, and you're making it personal. So I think it is quite strong. When I look for advice on plain numbers, one of the places I go is, again, gov.uk, and they have good advice, which I'll share with everyone, but it's like designing for people with dyscalculia and low numeracy. And remember the stats, folks, 1 in 4 people, you know, finding numbers hard. And they have just a bit of information there about it to give you links to things. And there's a helpful kind of do's and don'ts, you know. So I'll send you a link to that, and that might be something to think about. So again, this is like gov.uk. They have a blog, they have a content design manual, and, you know, they're one of the good places to go for information about things like that. Have I run out of time? How much time do I have? Like 2 minutes?
Sort of have, Sean. You've got 2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you very much. So There was another example, folks, I thought was really, really strong from the National Women's Council of Ireland. I might send that on to the person who sent it on to me just directly, and I'll send it to everyone, folks, as an exercise, but I think it's another example of strong work. So let me just wrap things up, folks, if that's okay. I've tried to use examples to illustrate these top 6 tips. So again, it's imagining your readers, speaking directly to them, using the active voice, putting the key information first, using the inverted pyramid, using white space headings and bullets, using everyday words, and then keeping sentences short. And what I'd really encourage you to do, folks, is just as an organization, to embed plain language. The best way to do it is to get people to reflect. And the way to get people to reflect is you just show them, you ask them to do crit sessions, which is where a person on the team shows what they're working on and invites feedback from their colleagues. And it can be a hard thing to do, folks, because people can be, sensitive, but it can really build great teamwork. So we do a lot of work with citizens information in NALA, and every 2 weeks we have like a training session with citizens information with the digital content team there, and we kind of review each other's work and we talk about what's strong and what can be improved. So if you can build that into your teams on a regular basis, they're called crit sessions. I really, really recommend them. So that's, I'll give you advice, folks. I'll send you advice about how to lead them. So they're kind of, they're useful. So folks, what I'd like you to do is in the chat box, just put one thing you've learned from our session today. So just think about, how can I adopt plain English? Even just put one small thing or one big thing you learned in our session. So does everyone do that for me? Thanks, Mary. That's very nice. So while you're doing that, folks, I'll just keep talking. So in the chat box, just what's one thing you learned? So folks, NALA do provide training like this. We do free training like this, but we also do kind of tailored training. So get in touch with me. You'll have my email after you have my email because I contacted you if you want to have bespoke training. Just review each other's work, use a kind of 4I approach. Very, very important to get buy-in from senior management. You have to be empowered to lead on it. Have champions among your teams. People can share resources. So lots of other things you can do, folks. I'd encourage you to join NALA as a member. If you're not a member already, you can join as a free member. We've got 1,677 free members, I think. So you could be one, or thank you for being one if you are, and you get discounts and you can learn more about NALA. Please do consider joining the NALA Plain English Network. So this is just an online LinkedIn group. We've got 363 members, and we just promote events like this, and we talk about plain language, and we share resources. So do consider joining, folks. I'm going to send you a podcast about literacy. I'm going to send you a podcast about plain English. Please do listen to them. Very inspiring stories, especially the literacy one. It's called I Forgot My Glasses. Really encourage you to listen to that. I'll stick around for any final questions, folks. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, thank you so much for all your work, advocating for important change in Irish society. So thanks so much, folks. Have a good day, and I'll stick around for any questions.
Thanks very much, Sean. That
Thank
was
you.
fantastic. You really explain things really clearly, and your examples are great. I really enjoyed it. I've been at some plain English stuff before with you, but I always learn something new, and yeah, I can see from the chat box now, people really found it helpful and useful. So thanks a million, Sean. If anyone has any questions for Sean, maybe just unmute, or because if you type in, it might be lost. The thank yous are coming in so fast. Don't give Sean too many thank yous, by the way.
No. Yeah, just there's a question there. Do you want to unmute? Is it Babajid? If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Maybe who's
just to say thank you, right?
Thank you very much, Babaji. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. I might ask.
Leave it there, Sean. Then
I was going to ask everyone to unmute and thank me. No, I'm joking now.
This
joking,
is what
folks.
I'm afraid of. So stop on the thanks for Sean. He's fairly good.
Let's go back to the St. Peter's Basilica and learn what's going on over there.
The gardens are great outside it. You can sit and relax in the garden now for your lunch.
Where can we find information on further courses? So Vicky, go to nala.ie and you'll see we've kind of 5 open trainings next year. So we have open trainings in like February and April and June and September, and yes, we have open trainings next year. They're online. We might experiment with doing one in person next year, but the demand has been about doing them online like this because I think it works. So just go on to nala.ie. and I'll put the link in the chat box, and hopefully, or someone can do it, please, for me, and you'll see the NALA further events coming up. Or join the NALA Plain English Network, and that's on LinkedIn. So NALA Plain English Network on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to stay in touch that way.
Are there any other questions there? Derv, can you see any other questions? Thanks, Derv, for putting that up.
Thanks to the Vickies for coming and representing.
No more questions that I can see.
Okay. So listen, we'll wrap it up there. Just leaves me to say thanks everyone for joining, and Sean drew everyone out, and it was great that people put in questions and comments and suggestions in the question box and unmuted and asked Sean, answered Sean's questions, you know, where he was trying to plain English things. So thanks for that. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. Sean, thanks a million. That was really fantastic. Excellent. You're a great trainer. Great. You're really clear. You explain things well. So yeah, thanks, Derv. Everyone have a good weekend. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks. Take care.
Yeah.